So a small introduction of who we have on the call and why we are having this chat. So yeah, we basically wanted to talk about the red light district. I think it has been, of course, one of the most famous, one of the most bespoken areas like ever, but also in the recent years more and more because of everything that is that's going on. And yeah, Katjalisa, that is the co-founder of Tours That Matter. She's the host of this chat, and has been for as long as I know her, fascinated about the area, fascinated about sex in general. I think to discuss. I still remember that, yeah, when we met 5 years ago at the tour company where we were working, and Katjalisa became a tour guide there. One of the first tours that I did with her was the red light. And even for me, because I was managing the time, the company was always wondering, should we really do this tour? Like, is it something that I support? And I think everybody has been having that a little bit, like doubts about what exactly you want to show and you want to tell about the red light. And for me, it was one of the first time when I followed Katjalisa's tour, and I realized that was like within 15 minutes, we had people from all over the world connecting, talking about their feelings, their traditions, their everything that they had related to sex. And for me, that was such a huge experiment that it wasn't about sex anymore. It was about breaking taboos. It was about sharing perspectives. And for me, the red light district kind of became standing for that. So I think it's great to have you here on this call. Katjalisa has been studying and researching the red light district for many years, and is also hosting a project that is called the Slow Sex Experience, which I'm sure that she's going to have a moment about to explain to us. And yeah, then next to that, I would love to welcome Roberto. Hi. I didn't meet you in person yet, but I just wanted to say thank you for being here. I think you are one of the people that probably knows the most people, things that are going on in the red light. So Roberto is the director of RB Horeca. And yeah, you guys have restaurants, hostels, bars, and I think more than 30 of them that are located in the Walle, in the red light district. So yeah.
Am I on as well?
Sorry?
Do you hear do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys for the invitation, of course. Then the thing I wanted to say is I think that sex and Nutella is a great match together. So let's try that one. Of course, be careful. Only try it at home. I'm 39 years old. My family started their restaurant business in the 1960s. I'm half Italian, half Egyptian. My grandma and my granddad, they had a restaurant in Amsterdam West. That was like a poor neighborhood that days. I think it was one of the first Italians. And my dad started to own several restaurants, and I studied, but I didn't like to wake up early. So that was my biggest problems. And I started working in the business as well. And now we have 30 bars, restaurants, fast food locations located in 3 parts of Amsterdam. One is Leidse Square. The second one is Rembrandt Square, and the red light district, of course. And I'm always going to my work very happy because I like this area. When the sun is shining, Amsterdam is amazing. I love the people. I love their way of thinking. They're very open. Everybody speaks English in general. So tourists are also very attracted to this neighborhood, and also to Amsterdam, of course.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the call. We would love to hear more later about your opinion. And then, yeah, last short introduction also for Julie. Julie, it's also very nice that you are joining this call. So Julie is from the Hogeschool van Amsterdam and has been really working on a project that is about the future resilience of the red light district and of finding again the balance and the common grounds. Do you want to give a short introduction to yourself and what you guys are working on?
Okay, I just was muted myself and left the video view because I was posting a message to my group that they should join. Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to see you all here, and great to see you also, Roberto. We met through the project a couple of months ago. And I think actually Roberto is an alumnus of the Hogeschool, are you not? Or
Yeah.
is that Ramesh? Yeah, okay, great. So yeah, I'm a senior researcher at the Hogeschool at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, and we have many projects with and in the city. And a particular project that I work with Roberto on, among others, but also with the people from the Reinvent Tourism Festival, is seeking ways to develop more sustainable and inclusive forms of tourism. So inclusive also that people who are visiting Amsterdam also contribute in a positive way to the city. So it's really great to be talking with you all together, because obviously Roberto is quite an important person within the tourism industry and really has the potential to help us make that change. So I'm very interested to hear what we're going to hear and learn from you today, Rob. Back to you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I don't see myself as an important person. What I try to achieve is a balance in life in general, and to take everything in perspective. And I try to put a dot on the horizon and try to get there emotionally, business-wise, with everything in general. So I think we're on a pre-stage of a totally different city center. Everybody has something to say about it, of course, and I'm trying to be a partner in where we all want to go to. And there's a nice city center where, oh, sorry, where people feel, where people are glad and passionate to be in this city center. So if you guys have a question, don't want to ask something, how do I see the future? Just tell me what you guys want to know, and I'll try to explain.
I think this is a great way to go. I'm very German, so obviously I've had a clear structure of this call today, and giving a lot of space in between to see where it goes. And actually I had it planned in my head exactly in this way, that Roberto will give a little introduction, and then we can actually, before I present my thing, and Dominic will talk about the happy tourist, and then we're gonna at the end come up with some nice challenges together. Yeah, so we're gonna have the possibility to be in breakout rooms later on to go a little bit more into detail about what we can actually change, and maybe already come up with some really cool stuff that then Julie with her faculty can take on, and we can implement these things together. So I really love to come up with something constructive already after this talk. What is the goal of this talk? For myself, the goal is I just want to hear the voices. I want to have like really like breaking patterns in the way we think. Okay, so when we talk with each other, when we enter discussions, that we really try to think into new ways. We know the old way, we know what is good about it, what is bad about it. For me, it's really important also in this discussion that we respect each other for who we are and for what we say. Yeah, there is diversity, and I think we all, we're all interested in creating positive impact. So maybe this is the goal of the session today, to come up with some good constructive ideas. Okay. So I would say let's have the field open for questions to Roberto. So whoever wants to say something, just unmute yourself. I actually have the first question already. What is your like deep inner motivation behind the work that you do? What is the most excitement about it for yourself?
Is to explore myself as a person. I like to try new ideas, also to keep me motivated, and also to try, when you're 20, you see the world totally different than when you see it 39. So I'm trying to explore myself also. I'm also trying to explore myself as a person, to see where business-wise we can make a difference, or also to be good for the staff we have on board. That's what I'm trying to do in general. But I think everybody's trying to do that in his own way, of course.
When you say exploring yourself as a person through business, I totally know what you mean, but do you have like an example, like something specific that you could actually give a little story, a little anecdote of where you feel that you've been growing personally through the way you do business or the businesses that you do?
Of course. When you come into an area, because it's very busy, that's good, of course, because you need a lot of traffic to generate money in general, yeah, to generate income. But that money, of course, comes also from a lot of different types of people. So by trying to read how the city center became the city center, you look at the demographic factors that are there. So you read a lot, and then you know, okay, well, I think 80% is like tourists, 5% is local. Why are there only 5%? Well, that's because it's difficult to, because there are not a lot of people living in this area. So that kind of stuff, yeah? So to analyze the stream of people that are walking in the streets or going into a bar to grab a beer, what kind of people are they? Because in general, I have an Irish bar with a hostel upstairs, and I thought like 40% or 50% are like English or Irish people. But then when I spoke to the manager of the hostel, she told me, no, it's only 8%. And we have a lot of people coming from Brazil, and it's very international. And it's also like a scene, yeah? A hostel is like a scene. People, they like to backpack and go to Thailand and go to, well, Lisbon maybe, yeah? I think Lisbon for the hostel is like the biggest market. There are a lot of hostels in Lisbon. I didn't know that, but that also becomes because of the pilgrimage. A lot of people take the pilgrimage and they have like a backpack and they just go for walking. So although we think that stuff just arose, it always comes from somewhere. And to analyze that somewhere, that makes you know how the future is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Can I jump in with a question?
Of course.
So I have two questions. The first is show us where you are. Can you show us where you are? Show us around a little bit. And
It's
my
not
second
finished.
question. Let's have a look. Okay, let me ask my second question first. Or you can show us around while I ask my question, whatever you want. There's a lot of we've had this conversation before, obviously, but it's an interesting conversation because you've talked a lot about the future. You're a guy with a lot of ideas and big business interests. So talking about the future and reflecting on what you said about balance, what are your thoughts on that specifically now that the situation has changed so much and that there's such a lot of criticism because there seems to be a lack of balance now on the one way and before in a different way? Oh, I made him crash.
Sorry, Julie, because well, did you see a little bit? Let's start with question one. Did you see a little bit how it is?
Sure. Oh, I think he's, yeah.
So your second question, Julie?
My second question relates to what you said about balance and the future. And you've been the subject of a lot of criticism. So could you reflect on that?
Well, what I try to explain like numerous times is that I'm not a part of the demand. When tourists come to the city center, I'm trying to look at what are they looking for and how can I be part of it. Mm-hmm. So the negativity in the area in general is that they think that we're just doing one thing and people come on in. That's not the way it works. People are like in general 1.7 days in Amsterdam. They want to see the canals. They want to see all the museums. So it's a very short time. So people like fast casual dining because it's not about the food. It's about experiencing the city. They want to see all parts of the city, and Amsterdam is great because it's tiny, so you can do everything on foot or by bicycle. I prefer the bicycle. I love bicycling in new cities, so you really can see the architecture, how a city is built about. So the big problem is that we're being criticized for doing our job as an entrepreneur.
But what I really, I mean, I agree with your perspective, right? I mean, you're just providing a service, and I mean, we've had this conversation, so I didn't want to go into that too much. But my question is mostly about how, precisely because you were talking about what you want for the future, and that you are driven by your own interest in finding a balance. So that is kind of something that I was interested in exploring, given that we are being forced now, also given the situation, to think about, okay, how are we going to move forward from here? Because I think that maybe, yeah, it's going to be a different tourist situation for at least a year, right?
Well, yeah, first of all, every person wants to be proud of himself, yeah? And
or herself.
Or herself, yeah. So I'm trying to make restaurants or bars where I would also go to and drink a beer, or where I also would go to and have lunch or a dinner. And I want to be respected in a manner as a customer, and I'm trying to give my employees the tools to do the same. Yeah. So always place yourself in the customer. What does the customer want? So for me, that's very important. And that's part of my balance as well. I just want to be proud on what we're doing and where we're going to. And that's like a small balance in myself as well. So the balance is being an entrepreneur and taking in consideration every customer that comes in that has a good time, then I'm happy as well. So the how you say it? If somebody is really glad, then I feel great as well.
And if I can jump in quite quickly, how do you organize balance between locals and tourists? Because that's also a big problem from the last decades. I think that locals really do not want to go to, for example, the red light districts because there are so many tourists. So what is in there for locals as well?
Well, what I'm trying to do is, and it doesn't really work out always, but what I'm trying to do is get other people from other parts of Amsterdam that are successful as an entrepreneur in the horeca, that's like for restaurants and that kind of stuff, to do a partnership and open up restaurants that are more for locals. So 3 years ago, I don't know if you guys know Cannibal Royale. It's a well-known restaurant. I teamed up with them and we opened up a Cannibal Royale in the Lange. So that's because I want also the people that live here to feel welcome in their own neighborhood. But the big unbalance in this part of town is the amount of tourists coming in. But I can't control that. So sometimes I'm trying to do initiatives and sometimes it fails and costs me a lot of money. But I like to experimentate as well.
Thanks so much, Roberto. You said that you cater for the type of people that come in, and I completely understand that because in general, that's what you do as a business owner. So if the type of tourist that came through Amsterdam changed, you would obviously then be willing to change your business model. Would that be correct?
Of course. Look, I feel I'm also like a chameleon. Yeah. I try to blend in for people coming in. Yeah. I can put, if I like heavy metal, I'm not going to put it in when a customer comes for dinner. So you have to adjust yourself on the customer.
So thank you so much, because I think that's also an important thing to bring up, is that it's not just about trying to change the businesses in the red light district. I think it's also about trying to change the type of tourists we attract so that it is easier to change over. And I think that should be a balance between the horeca that's in the red light district trying to change themselves, like you bringing in Cannibal Royale. I remember when you did that, I was quite impressed because I really liked that restaurant, but also to find balance. And then the other question I had for you is, as someone who has horeca in the red light district, and of course we all know about the extreme conflict with the locals, do you find that locals are willing to work with you and sit down with you and talk to you and actually change with you? Or is it just it's a me versus you kind of situation? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had an appointment today with somebody that has a lot of, I think power is it's not really a good word. I don't like the word power, but that has a lot of strings, yeah, politically, also as somebody who lives in the neighborhood. So I told him, let's team up and let's try to formulate what we together want from the neighborhood. He told me, no, I want to stay separately. You guys stay separately. There's no marriage. There's no bonding. And maybe that's because he's already living here 40 years and he's fed up. But we as entrepreneurs are also getting fed up. And it's all negative. It's all me, or it's all him, or it's all pointing out. So why can't we just cuddle each other after Corona and be happy and let's do it together?
Thanks for your answer.
I also have one, and that has to do when you said, like, yeah, I'm not an important person, or, you know, you kind of were playing that a little bit down, which, you know, of course, it comes from a humble place. But I mean, owning, obviously, or managing also so many, like, you know, places in an area which has been like such a big cash machine for so many years. Right now, you're on a break, like we all are. But exactly. So I've been with my project also, which I've been like reinitiating for years. It's, for me, it's always been about calling out like the power that we have when we own, for example, buildings in the red light district, and then we rent them out to room rental services, yeah, to take maybe on a different path, or also, yeah, on when we own like shops, yeah. So the discussion is always about, like, we want to change the quality of tourists that come in, right? Tourists that are not just about the fast consumption and the fast experiences, but really like dive deeper into the quality as well. And then what I've heard for all these years, including also from the municipalities, like, yeah, but this is the type of tourist that comes in, yeah? And many people have been answering exactly in the way that you have, which I do understand. Well, we need to make money, and this is why we offer what they want. I've heard this so much from all the sex workers I've been talking to. And for me, it's been like, wait 1 second. Hey, okay, sorry, he needs the pens of my son. 1 second. The kids are in the pool.
Give him homework.
The only pens, all fine. Give the boy his pens. Where was I? Yeah, okay. I got my red line back. Yeah, and for me, what I would like to see is the people that have the power, yeah, because people that own buildings in the red light district, or own like a lot of restaurants and hostels and stuff, at the end of the day, like, we have also the power to change the game. So there's two ways to go. We can either wait until the tourist changes. I don't necessarily see this happening. Or we can say, as room rental services, owner of buildings, owner of restaurants, okay, let's just actually create, and I'm not saying you have to change everything, yeah, but let's just see how we can change the offer. Because at the end of the day, I mean, this is what we all know, yeah? Angebot, Nachfrage, like, what comes first, yeah? There are many people that like you, that respect you for who you are, for what you do. If someone like you would come and would just introduce like a different way of doing business and come up with some catchy new things that would attract maybe a different kind of tourist, which then also would be interesting more for the locals, I think that could be like an important game changer. So basically turning it around, like not like you said, I'm the chameleon and I'm going to change my offer once the tourists want something else, but turning it around.
Well, I'm trying both. Yeah, there you have different ways to get there. What people don't see is we have some restaurants that are totally focused on the Dutch people. We have a restaurant called La Favela that's doing really great as well with the locals. We have Cannibal Royale, of course. Now we're changing a formal restaurant Anna into a new kind of Italian restaurant. And we're going to team up with the guys of Pesca and the Tulip. Also very well known in Amsterdam. So I'm trying my part, but don't forget one thing. The historic center of Amsterdam is very tiny. Like each building structurally is like 30 square meters, 40 square meters. You have a lot of problems that brings entrepreneur into a kind of corner. Yeah. If you have 40 square meters and you're paying 4,000 euros rent, even if you're paying 1,000 euros rent, it's not about the rent. It's about the space you have. Like for us in city center, just to have a garbage bin, that's incredible. Do you have a garbage bin? Because we don't have the space. So that's the whole problem of the city center. If you look in comparison to Amsterdam and Rotterdam, Rotterdam was totally bombed in the Second World War. So they could start fresh and make big buildings in big spaces. But Amsterdam, because it's all tiny, you're very restricted. Then it's also, of course, a part of UNESCO. So if you want to change stuff, you can't change it. We have for the restaurant we're going to open, we want to change the outside, like put plants and pots and more greenery and that kind of stuff. But they don't allow you to do that. So at the end, they don't give you the tools to be different, to make a change.
I want to read out what Julie wrote here. So her comment in the chat was, is it realistic to think we can change which tourists are coming here? And wouldn't it be more effective to try and change how tourists that come here comport themselves? And how do we make that an inclusive common process? It's not only upon the entrepreneurs. This is a very good point. Julie, do you want to comment on that, on your own comment? It speaks on its own. So for that one, actually, it's about how they can comport themselves or how they can actually contribute to change things. Maybe this is a good moment for Dominic to present. Again, we've presented it so often, but I think it can never be presented too much. Maybe you want to say something about our happy tourists, because it fits really what Julie just said.
Thanks, Kat. Julia, I really agree with you on that point. Something I've been saying, because I was a tour guide in Amsterdam for a very long time, is the idea of educating people even before they step off the plane of what Amsterdam is and how they should behave in certain ways. What Katjalisa and myself are doing with Matthias from The Happy Activist is something called The Happy Tourist. And the idea is to find activities that tourists can participate in that's going to have a positive impact on the city. And not just a positive impact, but also feedback, not just economically, but socially, environmentally, and make connections between locals and tourists. I think that's a very important thing to do, because I think as a tourist, if you can put your hand in a local's hand, if you will, in a metaphorical sense, and you could both walk that journey together to try and change a situation, I think that's the only way it's going to work. Locals are not going to be able to do it by themselves if they constantly have this pour in of tourists that just does the opposite. But tourists are not going to be able to do it if they just come to Amsterdam, and it's either this frustration between the locals and the tourists. And I'm very excited about the Happy Tourist, because I think this is a really beautiful way to find activities and local shops and things that tourists can participate in, that we can all work together to make a positive change. But that has to come from both sides. So that means part of the Horeca has to change. Like the Upcycle project, I think that's fantastic. And that's also a great way for tourists to get involved. I really, really enjoyed Berber's talk today. Because I was very impressed with all the green initiatives they have in De Wallen, many of which, and I've been working in De Wallen for a long time, I wasn't even aware of. And I think it would be amazing to get tourists that are coming to De Wallen, not just to come there for the sex tourism, but they come there for the green tourism. You know, what can we do to help participate in green movements in that part of the city? I think that would be fantastic. So that's what we're doing with the Happy Tourist. I'm quite excited about it. But it has to, I believe there has to exist that bridge between locals and tourists. And I know it might sound very optimistic. I'm always on the optimistic side of life, but I do believe you can change your image. We were having this in a discussion the other night with Costa Rica. Through marketing and through changing, they changed the whole face of tourism. I believe that can be done, but I do believe it has to be a thing from both sides.
Yeah, so can I say something about that? So if we look as the whole world as one place, yeah, we're seeing that 15 years ago, I would go on holiday maybe for once or twice a year. But now I want to see and explore the world because I like to see new influences. So normally before Corona, I would step on the plane like 6 or 7 times a year, just for 3 days or 4 days. That's something I, as an entrepreneur, can't control. It's the way the world is going. So taking that in perspective and knowing that tourism is only going to be more and more, and that people love Amsterdam, there's going to be more and more tourists. So what we have to do is, like you say, Dominique, we have to, how do you say, to give them some parenthood, yeah, to tell them how to behave in the streets and that kind of thing. But there's something else. If in a street 100,000 tourists come together, of course it's gonna be noisy and loud, and locals wouldn't like that. So the whole thing is, if you wanna keep Amsterdam not as busy, you should say to KLM or EasyJet, we only want 4 planes a day instead of 16. So that's the whole thing. That's the whole discussion. Because even if I have a restaurant and I am for the locals, with 100,000 people walking before my doorstep and they want to eat as well, you're going to have the same situation.
I completely agree with that. I have another question for you. Are you sometimes annoyed by the tourists as well? Or do you think it's just part of the city and we have to deal with this?
Look, I love it because I'm every day on vacation. I'm in the city center. I love people. Everybody has its own story. I like listening at what they have to say. And it's always, every day is different. I used to work in my dad's restaurant for like 15 years or something. And I knew already what Peter is going to eat. I knew already what Hendrik wants to drink. And it was the same story each day again. And I like now the diversity. I love seeing other people, other stories, other experiences. It's beautiful.
Hey, I'm just looking at the time a bit. And what I would say, you want to say something like burning
Just
me?
one last thing. Sorry, Judy, just to answer your question. The idea we had with the Happy Tourist is that for every activity that tourists complete, they get like a point. And if they get a certain amount of points, they can get discount from local, sustainable, small stores. Just to answer your question, that was the way we were thinking of connecting Horeca with happy activists and happy tourists doing good things. Sorry, thanks, Katjalisa.
No, actually, because I so much enjoy this, also the talk with Roberto. For now, I actually let go of my slow sex experience presentation because I feel right now it doesn't even fit here anymore.
I really want to know it.
If there's still time at the end, I will show you a few pictures and just, you know, briefly tell you what it is about. But I feel now we're like totally in the field of HoReCa and that kind of service, which I think is great. But I really want to get something constructive out of this call. And I love also what Julie wrote here in like, you know, collaborations between initiatives like the Happy Tourist, for example, and the HoReCa that's already there, to see like, okay, what could tourists do when they are staying in Amsterdam as different challenges that are maybe also connected to HoReCa. Yeah, let's see what we come up with. And where they could actually maybe get points also from you. We're having restoring nature projects that are connected to the Happy Tourist. And eventually, yeah, I'm just telling you where we think where it should go in the future or can go, is that, for example, also HoReCa, hostels, hotels, different kind of businesses would, for example, invest money in tourists completing different challenges, yeah, and then we can, you know, put this money into our restoring nature projects where we're planting trees, okay, in order to make the circle round. This is an idea we have been discussing already with Jasper, also Matthias Jasper from the Happy Activist. We're developing this, so we're in the baby shoes, which is a great chance for all of us. And what I would suggest now is that we're going to be like breaking ourselves up in different groups so we can have a good discussion going on and not just focus on the tourists, but also like think also for the locals. Yeah, like what would the locals, what could they do also in order to improve it? Yeah, they could also do certain challenges. So let's try to think in both ways. Okay, is this clear for everyone? Or Dominic, do you want to maybe add something to that?
No, I think you said everything.
Can I get a thumbs up?
Sorry, I have to cook and have to leave to
That's
take care
totally
of my
fine.
kids.
No worries. It was great to have you.
So, but thank you very much. It was nice listening. And I wanted to make one comment about maybe, you know, the growth in tourism, especially now with Corona and with environmental issues. I'm not really sure if actually we will, maybe we're already sort of on the top. So maybe that's something to keep in mind as well for the future. Is tourism really gonna grow that much more, or are we able to sort of cater to different types of demand? And maybe also the city center will become more livable. Femke Halsema wrote this story today, I think, to the municipality that she wants to make it the city center more livable by buying real estate. I don't know if that's the answer, but so that's something to keep in mind maybe also. Breakout.
Thank you.
Share.
Thank you.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye, Anne. Okay, so let's be a little bit constructive all together. Yeah. Let's say 5 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna put you in breakout rooms, and then I'm gonna bring you back after 5 minutes. For those who have never been in breakout rooms, there's nothing you need to do. Just wait and see with whom you're gonna end up. Make the best out of it. And then after when there's 60 seconds less, it's going to tell you you have 1 minute less to return to the main session. Just take your time and return, and then I see you all here. If for whatever reason you get kicked out, just use the same link to come back in. Okay? Good. Let's see how that works. There we go. Okay. Good. Is it happening?
I guess so. We are now with 4, so I don't know. How many people do you want to put in a breakout room?
I wanted less. So who is now in? So I'm with you now. Was this the idea? So then the others are in the other one, I guess.
Should be.
Should be. Okay. Good. Let me just time it. You guys go. I'll join in. I just need to figure out the timer.
So can you repeat the question once again? Like what
Are you there, Anushka?
She's frozen.
Frozen, huh? Okay, so the idea was to come up with, let me just quickly set the timer. So the idea was to come up with challenges, yeah, that with the project of the Happy Tourists, tourists can do in order to contribute through little actions, yeah, by picking up plastic, by,
Okay.
yeah, but then it's also the question.
So basically what Dominic already mentioned before, that they get like certain points, and if they receive 5 points, they can have a discount at a certain shop or something like that.
Exactly, something like this. But you know, like the challenges that we have there, from write a recipe of your home country when you travel on a postcard and put it anonymously in the postbox of someone that lives in a neighborhood. Yeah. So how can also tourists really give back to the city? But then the question is also now specifically for the HoReCa, like what could they offer? Yeah. So for example, one of the ideas, oh no, Anushka is gone.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ideas that I've had was even talking about it with Roberto. So when like he could offer in one of his Nutella shops like a crepe that is not just made with Nutella, but maybe with like an organic spread with like handcrafted chocolate that tells the story of how the bean gets into the crepe, yeah, and then people, like he could say, like with every crepe that you eat from that kind, part of it goes into the project of cacao in Costa Rica. I'm just naming something.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of really see how we can become more circular also in this way.
Okay.
What are your ideas? I let the both of you talk a little bit about it, because obviously I have already been brainstorming a lot about it. I'm really curious to hear what could, just play with it. We have a few minutes, let's just play with it.
It's basically just about giving back to the community, right? Or bringing. Okay.
Yeah, but now it's coming from the HoReCa, of course, right? This is more the HoReCa perspective. I think also when the municipality says it wants to invest in the donut economy, there could be a really nice campaign in collaboration with HoReCa. And then you can actually start making it bigger, contributing to a bigger movement. Because if the HoReCa has to invent everything and it has to come from their side, it's going to be really difficult. And they are going to feel alone, I think, in this.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it has to come from both ways. But yeah, now that they have actually announced that the donut economy is going to be a big thing, well, I think here lies the key. If they say they want to do this, to set up a campaign with the HoReCa and of course with other sectors as well, to make it sexy, because this is what Amsterdam wants, right? To be the pioneering city, and it sells, I think, if you put it in the right jacket. And but for me, it's a bit abstract to think about concrete challenges that people could do. For me, this is a bit out there, but I think there's a huge potential in there for creative people to come up with.
I completely agree. Indeed that you are mentioning, like, with now exactly concrete plans what we're gonna do, I think we need to brainstorm there a little bit more.
And also about how to break down the donut economy, right? So they have been working together with this Kate Reward, and how are the practical solutions for this? You know, the theoretical stuff, it's out there, of course, but how are you gonna break it down into really concrete actions that people are gonna understand as well what the model is about? This is a key in the whole process, I think, that they, with their actions, they get more conscious about what this model is about.
But what do we think then? How can we implement this really directly for people like Roberto and for all the businesses that he has? Yeah. So far attract people that have not heard about the donut economy, most of them, and they're not aware of what circularity means. Yeah. And if we say, okay, but let's just assume that he will just keep the businesses the way he has it. Yeah. How is it going to,
But does it then not already start the moment they set foot in the Netherlands, instead of that, for example, the HoReCa needs to do that? Because I have the feeling that tourists are maybe, or people that are coming to Amsterdam maybe have different purposes of different reasons for visiting. So not really interesting in maybe the thing that we are now looking for.
Let me try one thing. I think I have to close the room, but we should have 1 more minute. In case it goes wrong, we're going to be already in the main session. Let me just see how that works. Okay, now they get they get informed that they have 1 minute left to come back. So is there anything that we can present back to the group now?
Anything concrete? That's really
Anything
difficult.
concrete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not an
so
easy one, huh?
abstract.
No.
Yeah, I do really like your idea, for example, with the fair trade chocolate paste, because that makes people conscious and that puts into practice what I say, but it's a bit abstract though.
No,
But
I don't think it's abstract.
things like this.
I think you could totally present that as, like, you know, having a pendant to the crepe Nutella with a different spread, with a more organic spread that is fair trade, you know, that contributes in that way. I think that could work.
So you're gonna do it with storytelling then, a little bit as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, in order to also get there. Now we're gonna go back to the main session. Okay. Are we all back? Oh, I find it always spannend. Anushka, you were just suddenly gone, right?
Where? Yeah, I was in a breakout room.
Oh, you were just in a different one. Okay. And then I saw Dooley's message to me. It's like, we're a small group. Shouldn't we just stay in one group? And I was like, oh, maybe we should have. But actually, I always love when there is also just the one-on-one contact, because even if we're just a small group, there's the tendency of some people to talk more. And when you're like with one person or just with 2 other people, like, yeah, I'm very curious to hear what you got out of your little discussions. Who wants to start? Who wants to share first?
Go for it.
I can start if you guys want. I was in a discussion with Roberto and with Dominic, so I think we have a great combination. Also, we did still have a little bit more questions towards each other, so we didn't get right away to like inventing stuff. But yeah, I think we tried to take it a little from 2 different perspectives, which was, of course, to basically develop some sort of activities that everybody could participate in. So there's not this anymore saying like the business owner should be doing that, the tourist should be doing that, but that actually we could like invent things that everybody can do together. And yeah, one of the things, of course, of the red light district has been the trash problem. So we thought something that could actually be very nice is to organize like trash cleanup events in the red light where the business owners are participating. We can invite the tourists, we can invite the locals to also like get the communication going, but not get the communication going which are actually confronting each other about the problems. Because I think that's what we see now with the festival. Like, as long as you're working towards a main goal, which could, for example, be cleaner streets, because everybody has that as a main goal, like then they're kind of communicating in different levels. And yeah, what we also spoke a bit about was the whole communication, because of course, like for the business owners there to have a voice into the neighborhood. So basically the things that they are doing, if they're contributing, because Roberto was saying, they're also doing things like basically changing the look of the buildings, like they're doing things that are good for the neighborhood, but basically to communicate these things so people know this also, so there's some more transparency about, for example, an amount of the money of the profit actually going back into neighborhoods, projects and things like that, that will create like, okay, these businesses are not only like caring about their economic value, they're actually contributing something to the neighborhood would be very good, and to get some like ads on that. Then we thought also maybe like a beauty court thing, like a neighborhood discount to get a coffee next door, because I think in the end, like also to change the behavior of the tourists, in the end, it's all about having an example role of the locals. And that's what has been missing a little bit in the red light, that because the balance is so much off, that you don't have people that are like behaving like they're in their normal neighborhood. Like you have people that are screaming at tourists, and you have tourists. And I think in that sense, like that just needs to be a balance. And I'm hoping that business owners are now realizing like we have to be resilient in the future. we have to have a balance between tourists and between locals to actually keep our economic profit. And for that, if this balance is back, for the locals to show like a good and positive example, for the tourists to co-create and to like basically positively impact a little bit the neighborhood. And I think these challenges that we're developing with the Happy Tourist should therefore also be like, right now we have a great chance because we're testing them on locals, and should be stuff that both of them can do, like just to cut out this whole division between the lines of locals and tourists. Okay, I'm leaving from like the recommendations into my own opinion now. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, you want me to comment on that one?
Sure.
Well, I think that each initiative that's good for the neighborhood and brings people together is something you should do in general. Of course, the whole Corona situation makes it for me on this moment very hard to think on any initiative except of my own businesses. But of course, when this goes into a normal structure, why not? Why not organize something like that? And I think it would be a great idea.
Amazing. I think Sam really wanted to say something for a while.
Yeah, so Julie and I were chatting in our room, and you know, as was mentioned earlier, this cannot happen without the involvement of the locals. And this is something that I made a comment about in another workshop, that I think one thing that Amsterdam has an issue with is hospitality and customer service and stuff, and you know, and the interaction of the locals with visitors. It's not going well, you know. People care more to be good citizens when they're visiting, when they feel that their presence is valued, when they feel that their voice is heard, that they're not just walking Euro signs, you know, thank you for spending your money, bye, I don't want to have anything to do with you after this tour is done. There needs to be more of a conversation that happens between the locals and the visitors. You know, the gemeente has been so big on in organizing these very, very detailed meetings with the bewoners, with the locals living in that area, you know. Here is a chance right now to rewrite the narrative, to remind the locals, we have this amazing pause. Don't just look at it as this is a moment, okay, we can breathe now, the tourists are gone. Here's a chance for us to look at how we want to shape the future of our neighborhoods, and how we can do that by involvement with actually engaging the visitors. Maybe something like an adopt a local or adopt a visitor program, where people who are visiting actually have an hour to spend with somebody who lives in that neighborhood to hear about what their lives have been like living in that neighborhood, what stories they have to share. Because you're going to be more conscious about your behavior in that neighborhood when you actually have a positive interaction with somebody who lives there, you know, when you feel like you connected with somebody there, that it's not just an area for debauchery and to go on a pub crawl or something like that. But this is only going to happen if the locals involve themselves and take an active participation. And the gemeente, as much as they have been organizing these kinds of events, here's a chance to do something via Zoom. They have all of the contacts of the people living in that area to start this narrative and remind them that, you know, this can only happen to change the future with your involvement.
Well, the whole thing is, Sam, look, the gemeente and the people that are living in the city center are really narrow bonded. Yeah, they have a lot of meeting. It's like ongoing process, and at the end, it's negative. It's all the fault of the people that have their businesses. We don't want to talk with them. I'm coming back with the old stuff. But the thing is, put us on the table. Bring us to the table so we can make a difference together. Yeah, because at the end, what I see as politics is, the people that live here in city center, they vote. For the people, the mayor, what else, the college, I don't know how you say that in English, but they need those votes to get on power. Mm-hmm. So they're very teamed up. What I'm missing is the third structure, and maybe a fourth if you take the landlords with that as well. The entrepreneurs, people that have property, gemeente, people that live there. Bring them together in a small group, or else it will get chaotic. and just what can we do to improve? Don't look at the negatives. What can we do to make it change together?
Well, is the gemeente at this moment, for example, you know, you're talking about this narrative of people being angry, and you know, one of the concepts of this whole festival is that in order for change to happen, it has to start with love for our neighbors, love for our city, love for the people who come here, and we have to let go of that anger. Has the gemeente engaged in this narrative at all right now that, you know, everyone has had a chance right now to take a breath, to enjoy this moment of silence, but here is a chance now to start a new narrative, to forge the gap again, and, you know, reconciliation between the businesses and the locals. Here's a tremendous opportunity for that to happen. And I think, you know, the municipality, and I don't know if they're the ones who have to be the ones to get in there and make this happen, but something has to happen where there's reconciliation. It can't happen without reconciliation. And, you know, I very much agree with a lot of the points that you said earlier, and this divide, there's this tension, you know, between the business providers. You're only, you know, I also think like a businessman. I totally hear your voice completely, that you're just meeting a demand. If the demand doesn't exist, you can't really supply that, you know, and that's just how a businessman has to think. And you're absolutely 100% correct in that, in what you have said. But here is a chance now to reconcile between you as the businessman in that area and the locals, now that they've had their chance to breathe, you know, that the tensions have kind of stopped for a little bit. And here's an amazing chance to reconcile and see how we can discuss and work together to build a better future for the area.
Well, what I see, because of the corona, of course, and there's not €1 coming into the businesses, that people want to change, they need help. But I think that the people that are living in the area are saying, well, now you have a problem. You're not going to earn money, so you'll leave anyways. Why should we give you a hand if you need it now? That's the whole problem. And what I see from the municipality is we're going to change, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But there's no interaction with the groups that have to carry their plan. Yeah. So if I have a plan to go somewhere, I need my staff. Without my staff, I'm just a one-man show. That doesn't work. So you need draagvlak. I don't know how you say it, but you need people supporting your ideas. But they're putting everybody in their own corner without the base.
So how about, also in order to get to a nice closure here, I can see we can go on for much longer, huh? Because still things are coming out, and but I also want to respect everybody's individual time schedule here. But what I hear from all of us is we want to rewrite the narrative, right? And we do want to work together and come up with some really nice ideas how we can make this a good one, right? I think Julie is totally on board to bring in also her students and her like network and way of thinking. Tourists That Matter, 100% on board. Dominic with Nomadic Existence, absolutely on board. Elena joined at the end from the Reinvent Tourist Guide. Also very creative thinker, always open for like implementing change. So I think we have already, you know, like some good brains here together. So I would suggest whoever wants to like have a follow-up meeting also through Zoom to actually go more into detail and to really pick this one further and deeper, because I really would love to do that. Just let me know, and we will just schedule a next one to come up with some concrete ideas. How does that sound to you?
I think really good.
Julie?
I would like to do a little commercial break here, because on Tuesday at, oh my God, what time? At 1 o'clock, we will have a session, which is kind of concluding this, this theme of tours as a tool for change, whereby we will actually see, okay, all the experience that we've had throughout the festival, how can we gather these up and contribute to new business models. So it's actually kind of concluding in what we're talking about this. So please be welcome to join there. Perfect. And you can email me or one of the girls from Tours That Matter to show you how to get there.
Yeah, I think we'll share it with everybody. And there's another one that is a really practical example that I think could be something, because this whole role of the government is in the end always attracting the same people to the conversation. I think the conversation can happen on a lot broader scale and directly between entrepreneurs and between locals. And I think it's on Monday when we're having the Digital Detox Day, there is already 3 different organizations that are together inviting us all. So I think it's Gypsy Kings, Mama Pancake, one more, that are basically saying, okay, guys, locals, like if you have an idea about what we can better do, how we can contribute to the neighborhoods, how we can be of any value right now, come with your ideas, and we're giving you free pancakes, ice cream, and like if that's not something to say, we're open to conversation. And I think in the end, if people start to realize that these are businesses that we can actually enjoy also, like that in the end, it's going to give also the entrepreneurs, of course, this resilience and also this like profit now maybe on the short base. So for both parties, things like that I think can work, and also to really approach it in a positive way. So that's one of the practical examples that I love.
Sounds
Yeah,
great.
Great.
Well, and I'm very much looking forward when I'm back to Amsterdam. Who knows when it's gonna be? Roberto, I'm gonna pass by for sure. I'm gonna have a grab with Nutella, and I'm gonna tell you all about the slow sex. How does that sound?
I want to hear that part too.
We're gonna invite you. Yeah, if I would open now the slideshow and the pictures, it's gonna be another, 10, 15 minutes probably. And I feel maybe this is just it for now, and it was perfect the way it was.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
guys.
Thank you so much all for being here, for your time. And we'll be in touch and see you definitely on Tuesday with Julie. Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.